I had to cut things out that robbed me of my energy, like drinking.
Yeah.
This is the drinking and going out was one for all of them. It robbed me of time, money, and energy. I didn't really have a plan. But I had the trainer bug. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the trainer bug. I've got the trainer bug.
Yeah. I'm trying.
I've heard you say you've got the trainer bug. Because if you've got loads of opportunities there and you're still reading loads, this isn't a slur at Ben, by the way. Me and him talk about this.
So today we're in a different studio on the podcast, and I'm joined, I should say, by the very special George Sullivan.
Very
Nice to see
special.
you.
I don't know about very special.
No, you
but
are.
thank
You are.
Good
I've
to
been
have
told amazing things by people like Ben, like we were just saying, mutual acquaintance. But yeah, thanks for coming in. How you doing?
you. Yes, Emilio. Good to meet you, man.
Yeah, good to meet you too. I know we DM'd a little bit.
Yes, a little travel from where I am in South London up to North London today.
Whereabouts you based?
I'm based over just past Greenwich, actually. So when I thought I saw your
Yeah,
office was in Greenwich, I was
to-
like, yes. And I checked the invite and then it was
need to-
in Camden, N9. I was like, N9.
I need to update the my Google business address.
I've got the same problem.
Because Amy and I, my wife, started the business and we did it out of our flat. And
Nice.
we have a flat we used to have a flat in Greenwich before COVID hit, and then we ran away to Cambridge.
Are you from that side then of the river?
No, but I'm from Blackpool, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm northern. But yeah, my wife and I, we moved together to London, moved into Greenwich, stayed there for a few years, loved it, loved Greenwich, loved the whole area. But when COVID hit, we were like, about to get married, start a family. We were like, we need some space. So yeah, over in Cambridge now. But yeah, mate.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Greenery's key. I did the
That's
same
why
thing.
I like Greenwich though, because
Yeah.
like the park's amazing. Like, we used to
that's
run
true.
around the park.
But
and it
apart from that, it's chaos around there with
Yeah,
traffic.
yeah.
And like, it's
Like
a
Deptford.
lovely... But I nearly moved to Greenwich precisely.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, I moved a little bit further out for that reason. Yeah, I think like for well-being...
Yeah.
I mean, like, I love going into the city. I've debated living in the city. You hear people talk all the time.
Like
of like
central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our office is in Shoreditch. People talk all the time. They're like, the commute is your biggest waste of time as a businessman. I'm like, not really. I do lots of different things on the commute.
Yeah.
But I understand that principle,
Yeah.
but it depends how you use your commute. So I debated it for a bit, but I prefer greenery.
I like my commute.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the one time of the day where I can put my headphones in, get some real decent admin done.
There you go.
So I don't mind it. I guess if you're on the tube, it's different. Like, you have to stand there in the summer and it's hot. But yeah, like you say, it depends what you do with it. But yeah, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. I am fascinated by your business, fascinated by your journey, because it's 10 years old now, right?
10 years old next year, yeah.
That's crazy. Has
Yeah.
it just gone like that?
It has flown by, yeah. I couldn't believe it when we were kind of coming up to 7 or 8 years, and I was like,
Yeah.
we're 10 years in business. Yeah, almost soon.
So how old were you when you started?
I
Sole
was, when
Supplier?
I started, I think I was 23.
Whoa.
So I'm 32 now. And even that's flown by. I remember being 23 and how like the lack of experience I had
Yeah.
in the world and life.
But I bet at the time you didn't feel like that. I bet at the time you were like,
Yeah, at the time I was delusionally optimistic. That's the way I'd explain it. I had no fear about anything, from stuff out there in the wider world on the street to like business and risk taking, to the point of I'd leave every job that I didn't like very quickly. I got bored. I thought it was their problem.
what kind of things were you doing?
I was doing anything from like pot wash in the local harvester right up to, I say right up to like it was top tier, right up to sales at the Yellow Pages when it converted to Yell to become digital.
What? That is niche.
Yeah, I was at one point, I was walking around North London, knocking on high street shops' doors, going in there, kebab shops, barbers, trying to sell them websites around 11, 12 years ago. It was quite a hard sell at the time. And the sell was, you need to be in Google. When people search for kebab, Camden, you need to be there. And I did that for like 6 months, had a brilliant leader, James Bugner, who was like the son of the boxing champ. And I learned a lot from him. But that was like truly difficult and took a lot of resilience. So yeah, it's kind of like
a lot of no, I can imagine. In any sales job,
lot of
a lot of no. And I
Yeah.
think that is so important whenever you start any business, because whenever you start a business, you get no just for the smallest thing. Can I set up a bank account? No. Like anything, you get a no. So did you learn that resilience during that time, do you reckon?
I wasn't resilient
At that time?
early on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more like, I don't like this position, I'm gone. That was me. I'm being real with you about that. And I see like some younger people now in our company who have some of them much more resilience than I did at that age. I wish I was more established with my mindset when I was that age. It's taken a long time for the mindset to develop and kind of catch up with the optimism and the kind of the intuition around business. I would say it's been a roller coaster of mindset for me. Yeah.
Did you always think, because I love to go back to the beginning of your journey of pre-starting a business, because I always find that journey really fascinating. So did you always feel like, I actually don't like the term entrepreneur. I think it gets thrown around a lot. Like I did a business degree and everyone, they talk about what an entrepreneur means.
What business degree? Just
business management.
Business management. Yeah.
And
really quite practical, that business degree.
I'll be honest, I didn't learn anything. Okay. I talk about it a lot. I didn't learn a lick about business.
But are you finding now running Outreach that it's translated to some extent? Some of the theory makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of the theory makes sense, but I don't think the theory was important to learn at the time. It was very much learn how to write an essay about business, which wasn't helpful. But that's why we had to write an essay about what is an entrepreneur. And one of my friends on the course wrote, an entrepreneur is somebody that wouldn't write this fucking essay. And that was it. And he just walked out, failed for the exam, so he didn't go down too well. But did you always think that, right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a business one day. Like, that's me. This is who I am.
Man, like it was that entrepreneurial spirit, if we're going to call it that, was within me from early.
Really?
I had that when I was at school.
Yeah.
And I've shared this before, but I'll share it briefly again.
Yeah.
I was selling CDs at school. That was like my first hustle amongst many other little hustles at 14, 15, when you could download music off the internet. And then the next hustle, which was awful and lasted about 1 to 2 weeks, was like a business called Guess the Sweets. Or it was some sort of business like that where I had sweets in a jar. I was going around talking to people and I was saying, do you want to guess the sweets? And you pay £1 in and then I'll draw the winner, right? and that was what I was doing. That was a weird one. But yeah, that was one thing. So it was kind of like I was just driven by creating things and seeing if other people would buy into them.
Yeah.
Not necessarily by money. It was just like, can I get the validation of someone buying into this thing? That was cool to me. That prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was the, I guess, so you did a bunch of jobs. What was the jumping point into, right, I'm going to do my own thing? I've worked for other people. I've done my sales boot camp. How and when did you jump into, I'm going to start my own business? Because I have listened to a few podcasts that you've been on, and I know that the Sole Supplier wasn't your first business idea.
It wasn't the first business idea, no. I tried different things whilst I was working. Yeah. Ultimately, my dad always told me, or he always instilled in me, as well as me seeing what happened to him as he climbed like the ladder, the sales ladder in print. I saw him struggle. I saw him lose jobs. I saw bosses be completely, act in a horrific way. And I saw him and my mum go through some things which I didn't want to go through. Yeah. It tainted my perspective of what it's like to work at a company for somebody. I later found out when I worked at companies that were good that it's not all like that. You get a good company with good leadership and good prospects, and actually you can have a good time. But my perspective was tainted. So I grew up with the perspective of, you don't want to work a 9 to 5. Because I see my parents have hard times doing it. They had some success as well, but some very difficult times. So it was within me, and I wanted to kind of get out of the 9 to 5 because I didn't find a lot of good ones. I also had ADHD, which meant I didn't stick in the jobs for too long. I later learned all of this. Like, I had it from 6 years old, and that just affected my impulse control. Yeah. I would just have a disagreement with a boss and leave. So I was almost kind of breeding myself to work to create something in my own way. Yeah. Because I didn't like authority at the time. I've had to come to learn that that's not a nice way to go about in the world. But yeah, so it was kind of within me, but I just didn't know what to do. And it was whilst I was working in recruitment that the only job I truly loved.
That's interesting. My wife was in recruitment before we started Outreach, and her dad ran a recruitment industry.
Nice.
So I've been through the whole boot camp as well of recruitment and learning all about it, the ins and outs. She'd come home, she'd tell me about it, and the similarities to what I do now in talent management are so similar, man.
Yeah, because recruitment's about people.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I think any job that's about people gives you a lot of skills to run with.
Yeah.
And that sales boot camp, as you called it, gave me a lot of skills to run with, learning about different people, how people function, how to appeal to different people, how to be respectful, how to understand what people need, and then pitch them something that perhaps they might like.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the only job I liked in recruitment with two great leaders, Ben and Jim, I'm still friends with them today, and very thankful for the leadership and coaching they gave me, right? Because if it wasn't for them and me hitting my targets, I probably wouldn't have been able to start the business. There was a point that came where I was building the Sole Supplier whilst working in recruitment full time.
Right, okay.
I was doing it at lunchtime and I was doing it after work, and the lunch times would spill over into their time a little bit. But because I was hitting my target, they were understanding. And it was a difficult situation.
Yeah. Because
they didn't really, I don't think, want to see that on the computer screen sometimes, even at lunch.
No.
Because they're trying to run a business.
Yeah, of course.
But did they understood.
Yeah. Did they own the company, or were they the managers?
Yeah, they were the directors. Yeah.
Right, so they were seeing you doing this other thing on the side.
But we were close as well.
And they were supportive about it.
They were, because I was doing very well in recruitment.
Right. Okay.
And the argument is I could have been doing a lot more to reach my true potential.
Yeah.
And I see this now with people. This is a side note. How do you spot when someone that's already a good performer needs to perform more? Like, how do you spot when a natural good performer who's basically kind of outperforming naturally, they might have like another 20, 30%, like I did at the time. I was hitting and overachieving my targets in recruitment at the time. And on the surface, that was good, but I actually had a lot more to give and I wasn't truly reaching that.
Yeah.
I had just built systems in the right way.
But not because you didn't want to, but because you had this other thing that you wanted to throw that extra 20% into.
That's the way to look at it.
Yeah.
And I speak about this a lot, Emilio, about the three things that I cultivated then and I still cultivate now are time, energy, and money. So I had to cut things out that robbed me of my time. I had to cut things out that robbed me of my energy, like drinking.
Yeah.
This is the drinking and going out was one for all of them. It robbed me of time, money, and energy.
Yeah.
I stopped drinking for 18 months.
Wow.
That was a segue into how I started it.
Not to go too deep, but were you drinking a lot before it, or were you more just like a partier?
Yeah, not drinking every day, but just partying, drinking too much.
Yeah.
Robbed me of my time and energy.
I mean, even just going out once, it takes out 2 days because you're hungover the next day. You might even feel crap the third day.
That. And when you're 20, 21, you can get away with it a bit more.
Yeah.
Especially as I've got older, you definitely can't get away with it.
No, I know
that. Anything that robs you of your time, energy, and money, you need to look into and be like, especially if you're working full time and you want to start doing something consistently, you're going to be tired in the evening after your job. So anything that's taking you away from that.
It's so true. So you were doing the recruitment, setting up the Sole Supplier. You had these amazing bosses supporting you, kind of wanting you to do more in recruitment. I have heard you talk on another podcast about that importance of new entrepreneurs doing something that isn't hugely risky from a financial point of view to validate their idea is what I think you were saying. So doing it in your spare time, not quitting your job to start something that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of pounds to try and launch. How important was that for you to validate the Sole Supplier?
Yeah, for me, there was a business that I tried to start before called Explore My Property, which was a video production business around luxury properties.
Yeah.
It required too much money, too much upskilling, and a lot of sales.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of time and money needed to go into that business.
Were you doing, sorry to cut you off, but were you doing the videography yourself?
I was doing the videography myself.
Wow.
Side note, I did a lot of parkour when I was younger. I filmed a lot of that parkour from when I was like 14 to like 18. I had to cut things out that robbed me of my energy, like drinking.
Yeah.
This is the drinking and going out was one for all of them. It robbed me of time, money, and energy.
Yeah.
Since early. So I thought I could take that into that Explore My Property business. But the point is, it was high risk and it was high cost and it was high effort.
Yeah.
It was high everything.
Yeah.
So when I found the idea of the Sole Supplier, low risk, because I needed to just set up the website and dedicate some time and money and energy to it, and high potential because there wasn't a lot going on like it, and I wouldn't say low effort, but lower effort
Yeah.
than picking up the phone and cold selling.
Yeah, yeah.
It was all within my control, the content that I created every day.
Yeah.
So I do say this to people. I think if you start out getting into business and you try something really difficult and really high risk and put a lot of money into it and you fail, how is that going to set you up for your next attempt? How much will that taint your motivation to start again?
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting because, again, I've been listening to some of your stuff and it is so true. And I when I talk to anybody who's saying, oh, I want to start a business and I've got to come up with a logo and I've got to come up with a website and I've got to, find funding and all these different things. It's like the model's not really there, is it? You're not thinking about the model. You're thinking about wanting this big business where you can leave your job and make a load of money. You're not thinking about an achievable model right now. I heard you talking about how when you first did your logo for the Sole Supplier, it had the London Eye on it, right?
Yeah. Oh man.
And
I posted it on LinkedIn the other day. It's wild. Yeah, the London Eye and Big Ben as the L in Sole.
When you think of it now, and you think of what a logo needs to be, clean, cut.
Oh yeah. I saw a really interesting post though the other day, which I resonated with. Tell me what you think. And it was a dude that was talking on Twitter. He created this massive thread and he showed you about how design has been lost to minimalism and how minimalism removes all character from things. Everyone now wants a minimal logo. And he looked at all the architecture in cities and he compared it to the architecture 40 years ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
Man, this was so interesting.
Yeah.
He was looking at like doorbells, he was looking at signposts, bridges, buildings, and then compared it to like digital logos. And it's so true. I was like, we've lost all character for minimalism now, but that's a complete side note.
No, but you say, what do I think about it? Thinking about it, it's so true. You walk through London and you walk through these amazing buildings and then you've just got modern. My wife and I were just in Rome. There is no modern buildings.
Yeah, that's why this place is so nice.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You go, you're like,
oh my God. Like, I think our hotel was the only, seemed to find the only modern building in the whole of Rome. But it's so true. And when you think of a logo now, you think of branding now, it's how can I print this and put it on as many things as possible? And it needs to be simplistic. But
simplistic because it catches everybody.
Yeah.
And it falls back into that. If you try and appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody.
Yeah.
So minimalism catches everybody.
Yeah.
But how much do you really get a truly like passionate, loving audience?
No, exactly. To buy into that.
Yeah.
You say that though, but then you think of how iconic that like Apple logo is.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then you're like, oh, actually, that's pretty sick.
That's a good one.
Like, they did do pretty well there. Trainers.
Yeah.
So you had a good business idea. Were you always into trainers? Was that like your thing even before the Sole Supplier? Like when you were doing recruitment in these sales jobs, were you always like buying the newest trainers and... Yeah, what was that relationship
Started for
like?
me in the sales jobs.
Right, okay.
They were like an icon of my success.
You'd buy a new pair of trainers?
Yeah, my dad hated that. He used to say to me, stop buying trainers, you're wasting your money, save your money.
Yeah.
You know, because not long before that, in 2008, we had the financial crash.
Yeah.
And it really affected my mum and dad. And yeah, so them seeing me spend a lot of money on trainers, they were like, what is wrong with you, boy? You know, like, why? And I said, I've got a plan. I didn't really have a plan, but I had the trainer bug. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the trainer bug. I've got the trainer bug.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I've heard you say you've got the trainer bug.
I'm trying to get the trainer bug.
Yeah.
You're the right guy to talk to because I can't. I don't like that many trainers, and then I've got like 5 pairs of Dunks in different colours because I know that's what I like.
Yeah.
It's the same with like jumpers. Like I'll wear loads of black jumpers. I'll wear loads of blue jeans. And I just go with what I need. So I need to expand my love of trainers.
Oh no, this is you are sharing the secret to happiness.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Buy the things you like.
Yeah, so I call it a capsule wardrobe.
Right.
Which will be like,
I knew there was a name for it.
Or like, that's what, Dan, who I work with, he told me about this. He said, yeah, it's called a capsule wardrobe. Some people take this to an extreme. So one of the people is, I can't remember.
Steve Jobs did it.
Steve Jobs, right?
With a turtleneck.
Yeah, okay. But there's someone that does it with just white t-shirts and white shirts. But I've now decided that 90% of my t-shirt purchases will be white t-shirts.
Yeah.
The other 10% is like the experimental budget.
Yeah.
And then for trainers, it's the same. It's like white t-shirt, white trainers a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once you know that and you feel comfortable, do you know what? You save money, you wear stuff more.
The time saved of just getting ready in the morning.
And the decisions are easier.
Yeah, every day it's just like, oh, I'm just going to wear the same. Honestly, I just wear white t-shirts.
And that's it.
Half the time I'm wearing them under a jumper, so they're just Fruit the Loom, £2 t-shirts.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, they fit well.
Yeah.
They're easy to choose in the morning. You know, if you've got a wild wardrobe, especially with trainers, there's loads of trainers that I don't wear. And I always say this to people.
How do you decide?
Oh, I keep it simple.
Yeah.
There's people there now that buy the wildest trainers. They'll spend their last bit of money on the shoes and they won't wear them.
Yeah.
And they don't want to sell them because they got them, they're limited.
Yeah.
And like young people are doing that and they're breaking themselves to buy trainers that they're not going to wear and they're going to sit in the box. Some of them are investments, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think we're living in a mad economy now where it's just like, people have lost rationale as to why we're buying certain things. You're meant to buy something because it looks good and you're going to wear it. Yeah.
You're buying it for a trend now.
Like,
I've got to jump on this trend even if I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. But people will convince themselves they do and wonder why it's 3 months in the wardrobe because it just doesn't fit.
Oh God, no, that's not me. I'll wear the same pair of trainers again and again and again.
Yeah.
Until they're worn, like the sole's gone, everything, man.
It sounds like you're buying correctly, man.
I hope. Well, my wife might not think so. But yeah, going back to the trainer, like the love of trainers. So, because I always think this is quite interesting as well, because everyone says do what you love and you'll never work again. I don't believe that because there are parts of any job that you love. You know, you could be a footballer. There's parts of being a footballer that I'm sure they absolutely fucking hate. The media, whatever it may be. But I always find it interesting when you do something you love, did it take away some of the love of trainers, especially when the Sole Supplier started to grow big and it started to become, you know, a business, employees, you know, clients? Did it take away any of that love or have you just kept that the whole way through?
My love started with trainers.
Yeah.
And my love now is business.
I love that. Cool.
So, and I think a lot of people follow that process. Having done this for 10 years, my love now truly is I will say 3 things, right? So it's building a great product for the customer. So how can we get people to think of the Sole Supplier when they need their next pair of trainers at retail or resale? And to do that, we have to build a great website, app and experience.
Yeah.
And then it's how can we build a great team to support that vision for the customers. So I can enjoy going into the office every day, as can other people.
Yeah.
Those 2 things, the external and the internal. And within that is the original love of trainers, which is good. I still buy a lot of shoes. I don't know everything about them like I used to.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't on the ground as much for a period of time. I was building like the development team. I was building the growth team. I stepped away from the content, which I've now gone back to.
Yeah.
And that meant that I lost some knowledge and some buzz for the trainers. But now getting back on the ground, man, I'm back into it.
I was going to say, that was actually one of the questions that I had down was, you're obviously an incredible creative guy. Whenever you start a business, and especially when it starts to scale, the owner of that business 9 times out of 10 has to take a bit more of responsibility from the operational side of things because you don't maybe even have the funds yet to hire an operational team to come in and do it for you. So you're doing the accounts and you're doing the website and you're doing the admin. Did you enjoy the operational side, or do you enjoy the operational side? Because I was speaking to Ben about this and he was saying that his brother does a lot more of that side of things. And he was like, but it can be fun. You can make that side of it fun. Do you enjoy that, or do you prefer being on the more creative side of the business, if you will?
I'll say I do whatever it takes for the business to succeed.
Yeah.
I'm truly of that mindset. If I need to be dynamic and I need to do content for the next 2 years, because that's where we feel the gap is, I will do that. So for me, there's like what do I enjoy is part of it, but kind of like what you said before, it's like what is necessary to achieve our mission. And this is something I've lost along the way. There's been stuff that I stepped away from the content too much and built the operational side, the development team, the senior team, the growth team, the training arm. And that meant that we lost a lot of brand affinity and awareness. And I wish I had never stepped away from the content that much. So I do believe it's important to have your feet on the ground and your head in the clouds, dreaming of strategy whilst knowing what's going on.
That's a hard balance though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So to have those two. What do you think your strength is?
I find this difficult to answer because try and get up and do what I do each day without truly analysing myself, my strengths. I'll look at what I need to do better to try and grow those things, but I don't look at what are the exact reasons that have made me personally successful. I can look at the things we've done with the business perhaps that have made us more successful, but I find this difficult. I also find it difficult to do personal content as a result of that.
Really?
I find it truly difficult to write. So we've been going harder with the LinkedIn stuff.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, I have someone that interviews me and we get a load of posts down off the back of that interview from the words transcribed. Because if I have to come up with those in exactly my way and write them off the back of my head, I find it much harder. So I have someone that I work very closely with who interviews me, speaks about, asks me questions, gets my thoughts down. I then work with them to craft that post. I can't do it on my own because I'm way too thoughtful about my own stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a real difficult question.
So do you find it quite difficult to talk about? You said, you said personal there. So when people ask you questions about yourself personally, do you find that like an awkward experience and you'd rather be talking about the business?
No, now I love talking about the business and my experience with the hope that there's other people out there that can help.
Yeah.
That's the mission.
I think that's so important because you're spreading, it's role models. That people need those role models. And this is why I love talking about people's backgrounds before they got into business and how they got into business, because I think so many young kids are just sat there like, I could never do this. And when they can hear somebody that's talking about their experience, it is so important. So whether it is, written down or whether it is a video, just sharing that message is so important for the next generation.
It's important to connect to that if you've got something to share. Yeah. It's like firstly like recognizing, so many people have said to me, you should share more about the story, the business, the team, and the things you're doing. Yeah. And now I'm like, we've been in business 10 years. There's so much to talk about with the hope of helping others. But the one thing that you can forget, if you feel like me sometimes, you wake up, you're not having your best day for whatever reason. For me now, it might be I've overtrained. I haven't eaten right. I haven't slept right. Smaller things, right? I don't want to talk on camera today for whatever reason. I don't want to craft a post. I don't want to tell a story. All I want to do is just get on with stuff. I think you need to reconnect with that mission at that point. Why are you doing it? It's to help others, to inspire others, to share a story. Like you said, to a young entrepreneur that's thinking, I'm going to struggle. I don't have money. I'm going out drinking too much. They might hear that message that day and then they might connect with it. But it's sometimes very difficult when you're in that overwhelmed state in your own little circle in your head going, I don't feel like talking on camera today.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it? And that's what you were saying earlier, is that you wish you had that mindset when you were younger. So now you're sharing that mindset. So maybe people who are younger will have it. How did you learn that mindset? Because when I was speaking to Ben, he reads more books than a librarian, that kid. He obviously digests content. How did you learn that mindset? Was it just a self-reflection thing? Was it you went and read certain books? Like, what was it for you?
So I'm an organic entrepreneur. What I mean by that is I got kicked out of school at 17. I didn't go to university. I haven't had an MBA or any formal training. That has meant that I've had to educate myself through experience and inspiration, people and books. So I have read a lot of books. I got into the self-help and business books for a long period of time, from my teenage years to like 5 years ago when I really stopped. Because I realised 5 years ago, I've got enough to go now. Like, I need to just execute. All I need to do is find the time in the week to do the things that are going to make our business grow and business better. And it's very easy to get, it's a form of procrastination reading, if you're reading about business and self-help. Because if you've got loads of opportunities there and you're still reading loads, this isn't a slur at Ben, by the way, me and him talk about this, you need to act on those opportunities rather than reading more of the theory. Because the opportunities are going to disappear. The books aren't. You can always come back to them. So I do think that it's an easy way to procrastinate. And now I'm very choosy about what I read. Because there's a lot of shit and self-help and business books.
They're the number one seller of books, aren't they? I was speaking to a publisher the other day. I was like, where are the biggest advances on books right now? He said self-help and motivation books.
That's crazy.
Which
I
is
didn't
kind of
know
like,
that.
And you do think, I always go back to who has written that book and what have they done?
Yeah, what's their credentials?
What is their credentials? Yeah. Because so many people do, and I even feel a little bit like an imposter when I'm having even conversations about motivation and mindset. And I don't want to be too preachy. Like I went back to my old school last week to do a talk to the sixth formers that were leaving. And the old head of sixth form was asking me to give advice on life after school. And I felt like an absolute imposter. I'm like, why are you listening to me? But
that's really good though to do that.
It was great, and I felt amazing after it. And I got to speak to the parents and ask what the kids were doing, and they were talking about. Like, one guy came up to me and he said his son has dyslexia, but the school do push them so hard on grades. And he was saying, I keep telling my son, it's not all about like grades might get you in the door. They're not going to keep you there. There's so many other ways that you've proven that. There's so many other ways that you can be successful, but going back to the sharing of that advice, I'm the same as you. I don't really read anything until I know exactly what those credentials are. And I think mindset and motivation and staying productive can come far easier from a routine. Like I'm big on routine. I can imagine that
big on routine.
You're big on, because you're into fitness.
Yeah, it comes back to that question about mindset. How did you build the resilience? Yeah. And then where do I get my inspiration? Yeah. But just quickly on that book note, and what you said about who has the credentials, there's almost like a hierarchy. If you find the book at the bottom and read that, you're going to get a regurgitated version of the person that person learned from, that person learned from. So one of the people at the top of the pyramid, or the two, are, let's say, Dale Carnegie, who's not around anymore, How to Win Friends and Influence People. A lot of good self-help books take those principles and regurgitate. So that's the basic. That was written 100 years ago, right? I've got one of the original copies at home.
Have you?
Yeah, someone bought it for me as a present because I bang on about it so much.
That's a brilliant present. That's a good friend.
Mate, the book's nearly falling apart, right? So it's,
got white gloves every time you open it.
Yeah. It's got a personal note in. So that's like one of the keys at the top of the pyramid. And John C. Maxwell, two books, The Laws of Personal Growth and The Laws of Leadership. John's like a 60-year-old dude. He's schooled in the game. He's done this for time. And read the books from the people that have been there and done it. Like, it doesn't mean that new authors aren't great, and have, like, Alex Hormozy, 100 million offers. I've just started listening to that. But he's learned from some of the greats, and he says that. But he's then done it in his own brilliant way and got the credentials. So I do think, like you said, Emilio, look at the people that you're reading from. Make sure they've got good credentials. Otherwise, you waste a lot of time. But sorry, to answer your question on you said about the mindset, right?
Just how did you build the mindset and your routine?
Yes, the routine.
The routines, so I always find that so interesting, because I'm such a stickler for having a routine, but my routine changes. Like every 3 months it's changed, and it stays. I like to say that I'm consistent, but my routine changes.
I think that's important. That's my experience over the last 10 years. Like I've experienced with like bulletproof morning routines that I've done consistently for a long time, that take time. How much uplift they provide to my life, I don't know, some of them. And an example of one of those long morning routines could be, get up, you don't look at your phone. That one stays. You meditate 15, 20 minutes. You journal to kind of affirm the day and what you want to do. The meditation stills the mind, clears any wreckage from the mind or any sort of shit you might have been dreaming about, right? And it clears the mind. And then you might exercise as well. And then you eat a healthy breakfast, and then you get on with your day. So that's a long routine. Takes a long time. Do you want to do that every day? Sometimes, if you wake up, you feel good, you might just get straight into it. I like that strategy. I feel great this morning. Cool, I'm going to work. It's 5:30, 6 a.m. But some days, you might wake up and feel like this morning is the morning I need to still my mind. I need to plan my day a bit clearer, and I need to exercise to raise my energy levels. So I do believe in being dynamic with your routine, but having structure. Having things that you know you can pull out of the toolkit to bulletproof your mind for the day, because we don't always wake up feeling good.
No.
But so some days you need it. Yeah.
I love that. I love the idea of having a routine, but it being dynamic, because I have it all the time. I try and do the same thing every day. But I think that's just my OCD nature of how my brain works. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And what I have is, if I don't do this, my day's going to suck. Where probably I need to get into a system of, do you actually want to work out this morning? Or would it be better for you just to kind of, like you say, meditate, journal, chill, and then do that later in the day when you may be feeling a little bit better?
Yeah, that's a really tricky learning for me, I would say. It's only come in the last year of like, I really want to work out. I really want to do this thing.
Yeah.
But again, is it just another way to procrastinate from the important task I need to do? Potentially.
It's hard though, because even just little things like when I'm exercising more, I mentally feel so much better.
Yeah, you raise your energy levels.
Just the fog, I call it like a fog in my brain, just goes when I know I'm exercising. But I know that fog will only go once I've exercised. So in my brain, I'm like, right, I've got to exercise in the morning or that fog's not going to go. But it's the little things like that. Like I was speaking to my wife yesterday and her sister who was staying at ours, and I've just started journaling. And I was always so poo-poo about it. I was like, what is this, like, journaling? Like, how does it work? Does it actually benefit you? I started doing it for a few days and I was like, it's not really doing anything for me. Now, I've been doing it for probably about 2 months now. I can't have a day without it now, because what it does is it's kind of what you were saying. It allows me to brain dump every bit of good, bad, ugly in my brain onto a piece of paper. And by the end of it, I either have a plan of actually that's important, I should probably act on that. Or all of that annoyance and anger or whatever it may be is just out of me and I can carry on now.
Do you find that you spot patterns over?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same things that are stressing me out or I'm getting fixated on. And I think because that's a great question, because I think because I see that pattern and I'm like, I'm writing about this again.
You can have the power to change.
Yeah. But I can also see what's trivial. I'm like, why am I thinking about that again? And then I kind of don't think about it for the next few days. So that is so true that pattern is definitely there.
Yeah, that's the most powerful thing about journaling over a long period of time. I always like to say, keep it easy. If you just say to yourself, I'm going to write one line each day, then it's much more achievable. Because I've done it before. It's like I'm trying to write X amount and then I stop doing it.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
What I try and do now is look for a story in the day. And I got this from a book that Ben recommended, actually, called Storyworthy by Matthew Dix. It's the best book on storytelling. He also recommends it, daily reflections from your day with a story. What story can you tell about the day about with a 5-minute transformation of something you've learned? So I learned this today and here was a bit of the story around it. I love that.
So do you journal at the end of the day?
It varies. I journal throughout. I do it on my phone now a lot of the time.
Oh, really?
And I've got separate notes in my phone and I just take notes from the day.
Right.
If I come out of, say, like a conversation like this, I've learned something that I think I write it down straight away. So then it doesn't pose it to the end of the day, which can be harder.
Yeah.
And some days I don't have anything.
That's interesting. Did you start by writing it down?
Yeah, in a
like
diary.
Yeah.
But I've come to learn that I need to be able to take those notes anywhere. So just being on my phone is quickest.
Yeah.
Won't look at my phone before bed. So I will write in a book and maybe transfer it later. But I do think the power of reflections creates more self-awareness. And then you can spot patterns, start doing things or stop doing things.
Yeah. Oh, the stopping doing things is the main one for me.
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't understand sometimes how to change something. And if you just get your thoughts out and brain dump, like you said, you start to get clarity.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean do it at the detriment of other things. Like, if you need to get an early night and all you're thinking about is journaling, probably just get the early night.
Just don't get stressed that, oh God, I haven't journaled today. But I think of it of like, when people think about mental math, like, oh, I can do it in my head. 9 times out of 10, it's far easier to do math or like anything that's difficult, writing it down, figuring it out. It's the same with your brain. If you're having all these thoughts and feelings, like, just get it on a piece of paper. Like, it will help.
100%.
For sure. You talked about not going on your phone before bed and not going on your phone when you wake up in the morning, which I am still guilty of doing, and I'm trying to get better at it. How important has that been for like just your mental health?
If I didn't have a phone, I wouldn't have been able to work on the way here.
Yeah.
If I didn't have a phone, I wouldn't be able to be productive during my commute. If I didn't have a phone, I wouldn't be able to post some of the content that I do, right? So it's a beauty, but it's also a curse. Because that feeling of wanting to go on the phone first thing in the morning is painful sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I go through the motions of truly being addicted to my phone.
Yeah.
And I don't like that feeling. Like some mornings, I say, I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to meditate before. I'm going to set my intention. And I'm not going to look at my phone until I've done half an hour of stuff that I want to do. And I just have to fight the urge to not look at it. I want to check TikTok. I want to check Instagram. I want to, you know, it's like the little dopamine hits I'm looking for because I've trained my brain amongst the work I'm doing to feed off those little hits of notification, comment, this, that. Just really bad for the mind.
It is.
Yeah.
But what's even harder is that you're running a business where you have to be on social media.
A blurred line.
Yeah, it's so
blurred
difficult.
line. My missus always says this to me. She's like, I'm working. She's like,
are you? Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing stuff on here. I'm working.
I have it.
And I use that as an excuse.
Yeah, no, mate. Yeah. I have it because we manage content creators. So I'm constantly on TikTok and Instagram and I get in these holes of like, oh yeah, I'm working, and then I'm on like the Reels Explore page, and then before I know it, I'm looking at
no
like
one's working on
absolutely,
Explore.
Yeah. I'm looking
You're
for
exploring.
I'm exploring new talent. Like honestly, it's so difficult, but it kind of like it's a nice segue on something that I really wanted to talk to you about, which was how important and what change has happened to the trainer industry because of socials. Because I can imagine, well, it's probably pretty fair for me to say, it's had a huge effect on just the way in which people find trainers, talk about trainers, anything fashion related. How has it changed your business over the last 10 years? Because 10 years ago, social media was not what it is today.
I think we were there at the dawn of how important social media was for the trainer industry to grow.
Yeah.
And in the UK, we were one of the people that helped it grow with all of the brands 100%. And retailers.
Yeah.
Whilst the brands and the retailers were releasing the shoes, Sole Supplier was there driving tens of millions of impressions saying these are the cool shoes.
Yeah.
So that third party influence, right? So we used Facebook organic when you could generate tens of thousands of likes on there in a matter of months. We used Twitter in the glory days, 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And now we're using Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
We've experimented with all the platforms, but there was a lot of hate for the way that we told everyone everything about what shoes are hot and where to buy them. I call it the gatekeepers of the industry.
Yeah.
I got on with a lot of them. I get on with a lot of them now. But in the early days, that kind of using social media to tell people what trainers are cool and where they're releasing was frowned upon because it meant there was less for certain people to get.
Right.
It took a little bit of time before the brands caught up with the supply.
Yeah, okay.
The demand went and the supply was still just like, we're increasing it a bit.
Yeah.
So people couldn't get their hands on them. And now with some of the limited ones, like you've probably realised and found out, it's just there's sometimes millions of entries into certain raffles for like the Travis Scott, millions of entries. Probably like 50% of them are bots because people still are using bots in mass.
Yeah.
So the supply's not quite caught up with the demand and the industry's still growing like crazy, but yeah, social, it's an aesthetic product, right?
Yeah.
If you've got something that looks good, social's the perfect place for it. Yeah.
It's just interesting for me because I feel like with fashion, not even, do you know what? Not even fashion, but things like trainers or stuff like Ben does with bags and things like that. I just feel like social has had, and it's quite an obvious thing for me to say, and this is going to get clipped and people are going to be like, of course it is, but it's had such a huge impact on the way in which people are buying and selling. I guess a follow-up question to the impact it's had is, do you think it's had a healthy impact on buying habits of people? Because the hype that social media can build around a pair of trainers does make people spend their last 200 quid on a pair of trainers. Like, so obviously for your business, you need people to want to buy stuff, but is there an element where you need to be influencing people in the right way using social media is what I'm probably trying to ask you.
Yeah. There's more education needed financially for people.
Yeah.
People need better financial education from school.
Yeah.
Right up until they leave school and get work, because people will prioritize the wrong things. And one of those things is the aesthetic. What clothes have they got? What trainers have they got? That is a result, to some extent, of retailers and companies like ours talking about certain things, but also these are nice products to show off when you've got them. So there's thousands of people that are posting them every day when they get them anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult thing, and it's kind of like that analogy of when you hear it, people say it's like, oh, well, you know, you shouldn't sell drugs. And someone's like, well, I'm going to sell them because they're going to get sold anyway. And it's kind of like that. It's like, no, that I don't know if that's quite right. It's like we need better education,
I hear what you're saying, though,
for people to say, because I was brought up to say, sort out your bills, look after your loved ones first,
and then
and now potentially invest.
Pay rent first, and then,
and then anything that you've got left over, spend it on non-essential items. I've put out content about this on my socials. We post content similar to that. Don't break yourself to buy a pair of trainers. Do it because you're able to.
I think that's what I love about some of your socials and what the Sole Supplier does is you're not just talking about the most expensive trainer, the most hard sought after trainer.
Sale items, general releases, stuff that people can get their hands on easily, as well as some of the hype stuff.
No, but I forget what you were talking. It's like a new Air Force or something, and they were like 50 quid. Which, you know, is a lot of money still, but it's not, you know, it's $1,000 for some of the trainers out there. But you were talking so passionately about it and showing why these are cool. I think that it is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Well, it's just people are buying a lot of the time for the aesthetic, what it looks like, right? So it's like, one of the series that's working really well on TikTok is trainers under £50. And some people in our office, like, I love some of our team because some of us are so tunnel vision on what we think works. I wasn't sure this would work. People are like, people just want hype. So I post this Nike waffle under £50. It's like £44. And it flew. This video got 1.5 million views. People just wanted this shoe. So then we turned that into a series. And it invalidated some of our assumptions and thoughts that actually people just, we call them GR Joe or Josephine. They're just looking for a good general release. They're not like the, as we call them, the must cop miles that wants hype everything, right? They're the GR Joe. They want a nice Air Force, a nice Dunk, a nice Jordan that they can buy today. There's a reasonable price that they don't have to go on our marketplace to spend X. They don't have to go and search on StockX. They just want to get a good shoe to feel good. Because let's not forget, when you wear a nice outfit, it fits, it looks good, and you haven't broke yourself to buy that outfit, you feel better.
100%. Or you get a haircut. Like,
exactly.
Get a haircut, you feel so much better about yourself.
Yeah.
You mentioned then about your team. And I know I've heard it, and I've heard you talk about how important your team is. What I like about the way you talk about your team is how they direct the vision of the company as much as you do. How important has that been as you've grown?
Yeah, a small example of that is we run what are called green light sessions, where they're ideation sessions. So you come to the green light with a few ideas on the topic, and no one's allowed to judge. You just go around one by one, and then you shout out your idea. And then we prioritize as a team the best ideas that we take forward. So it's a democratic process where people that don't want to speak as much can submit their ideas. They don't get judged. So people that are fearful don't get judged. Right. And then the validation and the prioritizing is separate. So the green light is all about just ideas with no judgment. So that's like one of the ways we democratically try and get ideas from the team and then bring them in. Ultimately, you can't be that democratic all the time.
No.
Because it causes a lot of slowdown. So sometimes you just need to say, right, these are the best ideas. Here's a few people that we do agree, and we're going to take this forward. But for me, I worked at places I hated with bosses that were disrespectful, didn't show recognition, led with fear. And I told everyone from the start and made it my mission that I would not lead in that manner. I was brought up by good parents who taught me respect and looking after people. And I've made it one of my missions with building the company to build a place where people can get on well, smile, achieve good things, earn and learn. And I'm looking for that stuff in the company. I'm looking around at people. I'm making sure, have we got harmony? Are people smiling? Do people want more? And I'll be honest with you, that's not always possible.
It's hard, man. Everyone's got a different... That's what I've learned over the years of growing a bigger and bigger team. When you've got yourself, and in my case, my wife, so your business partner, you've got two motivations. You both probably go in the same direction because you want the same thing. Then you add a first employee and they've got their motivation. But then when you start to add the third and the fifth and the sixth, and they've all got different motivations, you physically cannot make everybody happy at the same time. You can try, which is what's admirable for what you're doing, because like you said, there's a lot of companies that don't.
But that's a path to unhappiness for yourself and some of your team. And I love what you just said there, because that is a big learning. It's you can have your structure for how you teach people, you pay people, you promote them, and that can be all good. But everyone's got their own needs and motivations.
Yeah.
So I say the best way to do things for your team and your company now is a partnership between you and them. What do they want? What do you want to achieve as a business? Can you align them as much as possible and then put a progression plan in place which achieves that? And that's like some of the best people in our company. We've done exactly that. And as an example, I posted about Emily Atkins just 2 days ago. She started out as a community moderator.
Yeah, I saw this, yeah.
And community driven. She's still community driven now. This post got so much love because she was so much part of the community. She started there and she's had 4 promotions since, and now she's in our product management team, which looks at all of the features for the users and what they need, because she's got such a broad understanding of the business. She's a product manager. So she made her way up, but that wasn't where she started originally. She started in marketing and became a senior marketer and moved over into product. So and that matched with kind of like her ambitions and our ambitions. So And we had someone else, right, who started in an experimental role called Pip. He started in a crypto blockchain position, and then that fell apart. And Pip was already making waves with the development team because he worked in IT before. And we were like, we need to hire a junior developer or two. Pip's so passionate. He's putting in extra time to learn, and the development team have already said he'd be a great person to work with. So after some conversations, Pip moved in, and now he's on his way to become a mid-tier full stack developer.
How important is that? You talk about building people internally, and because I can imagine, like, you see the StockX's out there growing, and you're like, I want to maybe hire some people that work for them to benefit from it. But how important is it to build from within?
Very important, because you need to give people the opportunity, but ultimately you just might not have the skill sets internally for that thing you need to do right now. So one of my biggest learnings has been you need to hire, and me and Ben have had these conversations like many times now, you need to hire a good mixture of senior and mid and junior. Don't imbalance it so you've got so many junior people, because that creates so many problems to teach and coach. So the senior people with industry experience come with those salaries attached, but the amount that they will do for your business is phenomenal in terms of inspiring and coaching and leading. So that's something that we didn't do. We actually hired people more junior and built them up more. And some of them are brilliant, right? And they're absolutely smashing it. But that is a long journey sometimes. And like you say, if you've got a StockX out there that's had $500 million of investment, and you're trying to compete in the space with them in some way, and they're just like, give us this person from here, they cost 100 grand, 120, 150 grand. There's $1 million in salaries for 5 or 6 people. You're competing with that.
God.
So it's tricky.
That is why, and it's a bit of a loaded question, because we are massively trying to hire people from other agencies, but equally there's a huge focus for us on promoting internally, and I'm really trying to push our talent managers internally to become more senior, or the junior people to become talent managers, because sometimes the fear that I have of bringing people into our company is you're not buying into who we are, how the way we do things. And it might be great, the knowledge you bring in or the connections you bring in, but it's the people on the ground that have helped build this company that is the reason why we're here. And they know how we're doing things. And it's the same with, sorry, I forgot her name, Emily and your team. And that's why you've pushed her through.
I think it would be like a deluded view to think that, which is a very old school view, that like CEOs and founders used to go about and think that it was all them. And they used to talk about things like it was all them. And that's just complete rubbish, right? Because team is all the small parts added together of the engine that makes the business what it is.
Yeah.
There's no more that I am doing, right, as a CEO compared to someone that's skilled in another role. There's different things I'm doing, but they contribute to the whole. I'm just one man in a machine, and we'll say a well-oiled machine that works, right? So I think for that reason, you have to recognize people's efforts, pay them accordingly, teach them the right things, build an environment for them where they can flourish, and give them as much opportunity as possible. The caveat to that is, if your business is going through a tough time, which Q1 2023 was tough for us for the first time in 8 years, it's harder to meet those expectations. You might not be able to promote someone if they're doing well because you're having a tough time financially as a business. Yeah. You might not be able to give certain people the opportunities because they're not there right now. And that's something that's been very difficult for me because I haven't been in that situation. We financially didn't hit our target for Q1. We lost money year on year. And we didn't grow year on year. We lost money considerably in Q1. That's okay because we've had cash reserves, but we did have to make some changes to our business.
What if you don't mind me asking, do you know what the main reasons were behind that? Was it a market thing or was it an internal thing?
Yeah, so the decline in the economy here, fashion was one of the main affected areas. And that was what the news spoke about a lot. People's confidence has dropped considerably and it's still not back to where it was. And that's fine because, like we said before, in a time of economic need, people should be more careful with their finances. So I'm not sitting here going like, why are you not spending on shoes? Yeah. I'm like, people need to do what they need to do to look after themselves. Yeah. So we had to make some changes as a business. We had to change our office space. We had to review a lot of different tools and costs and consultancies that we were working with, and some of our team as well we had to look at, which was very difficult, something I've never had to do. But all we could do was be transparent from December through to March, April, and we had to make some more significant changes. Every month a financial update. In all one-to-ones, the leadership team were giving people clear information. Everyone has access to the revenues and the dash, so they know where we're at. We were painting scenarios and showing them what would happen in different scenarios. So giving people transparency to understand this is what it looks like at different stages. So they weren't surprised, right? And granted, like, you can't do everything perfectly, but I think transparency is key. If huge. Things are not, in both aspects, if things are going well, people can make better decisions. And if things aren't going as well, you need to be as transparent with people as possible.
Yeah, they need to know why. Why are you making those decisions?
Yeah, why? And like you said, why have we made a loss? Because they're looking at the dashboard and their revenues, they're like, this channel's struggling and I'm working on that channel. And we're saying to them, your efforts are not what is affecting the channel here. This is the wider external factors that we can't control. Look at the consumer confidence. Look at what's going on with energy bills. People are going to be pulling back, and that's understandable. So you're constantly having to reinforce people's good efforts because they will start to, some people think, it's me, I'm the problem. And then motivation slips more. And there's going to still be people that need to pick up their motivation or might not be doing the right things. But I can truly say that our team in Q1 were still doing a brilliant job, and it was the external factors and consumer confidence that just affected our numbers. Trainer prices went up. Jordan 4s went up from £160 to £200. That's more than inflation. So I'm conscious. Every week we're doing an update. We're showing external factors, things that are happening, and going, guys, listen, this is what's going on. Don't get up every day and be pissed off that your efforts are not making a difference. Just focus on doing the actions that you know work, and things will get better. And we've got more stable now. But it was very difficult.
It's interesting you should say it because we had a slower Q1 than we expected. For the first time in about 3 years. And our industries are different, but also they do relate, because a lot of the budgets that our creators are getting paid to, promote brands are in the fashion space. And we did see those fashion budgets drop quite a lot in Q1 across the board. And it started to come back a bit more in Q2. But I still think, I don't think they've come back to anywhere near where we would have thought they would have come back to.
Well, we experienced, and one of the things that we could show very demonstrably to the team. The acquisition team was like, costs on Facebook and Insta are going up for paid. Here's a report from Facebook that shows that budgets, that people spent 70% less. That's why they had to make all those layoffs, Facebook, right? So people have spent less and costs are rising, which shows that not only are consumers not spending, but there's less competition in the platform and the costs are still rising. So that shows you in data purely, this is a result of the external factors that are out of our control. And I just love that mantra: accept the things you cannot change and control the things that you can.
You said then you still got to keep motivating your team while that's happening. Like, stuff is happening completely outside of their control. And you can say to them a million times, don't worry, it's not you. But people are going to take it to heart. How have you been keeping your team motivated in a difficult quarter?
It's like that. You've got to have clear examples.
Yeah.
You can't just say it's the external factors, but you can say there's less competition because people are spending less on Facebook and our costs are going up, but our creatives got better. And look at consumer confidence. There's the examples. You've got to be able to provide info as to why. That's... I think the challenge is that you have to lead with your energy. If you can bring a calm, collected energy that keeps consistent during a tough time, which I tried my best to do, that's going to inspire and help people more than anything you can say. I think that the leaders that panic, that pivot way too much, which we've pivoted in the past through panic. I've done that before. That is when it instills fear into people. And they're like, they're worrying. But we had cash reserves. We had plans. We painted a transparent picture. And I was leading with as much calm as I possibly could. And I was saying the same to our senior team. And I'm truly grateful that they embodied that as well. Because it's that method, again, of just, we get up each day and we do the best things we can and we have to let go of the rest.
What was that like for you, though? Because I can imagine it was quite a stressful time. A slow quarter is going to be stressful for any business leader.
I said to somebody, like a few of my team said, before we had to make a few changes to our team and sadly let a couple of people go, they said to me, are you okay? And I said, I'm doing each thing I can each day to make a difference to the things that I can, right? I'm giving it my best effort. I'm not going out drinking. I've optimized my life so it's absolutely in check to manage this business. I'm not going away on holiday until we're out in the clear, for instance. Nothing is booked in, and that still exists. I'm going away for a few days next week, and that'll be the first trip of the year, right? So it's like, that's how I managed it. And at that point, all you're going to be stressed about is the stuff that isn't happening. It's stuff that's happening in the future. You know, like you're painting that future thing. When it came down to it that we were going to have to let a few people go, that was something that I was struggling with, not getting worked up and stressed about, because we haven't had to do that before in that manner. And I was losing sleep over that. And I know a couple of our people in our team as well were losing sleep over that. And you're losing sleep because you're thinking of that moment, that horrible moment where you have to say those words. And I kept saying to myself and a couple of people that were really, really in pain about it, that's not happening right now today. So try to remember that that's not happening right now and to still give it your best shot today. I had to keep telling myself that. You know, like, because otherwise you just keep thinking about the future event. And that's not reality right now. Deal with that pain on the day. And that for me is one of the biggest things as I've got to like 30. It's like, if something painful is going to happen, you don't need to experience it until that happens. What you need to do is just create the plan, stick to it, and just keep reminding yourself, stick with it. That's not happening just yet.
Do you listen to any Rob Dial stuff?
I've only found out about Rob Dial in the last. I really
like
Rob Dial.
Ben put me on him, and I've started listening to his, because they're really quick snippet episodes. Like
He's great.
15 minutes. I was listening to one the other day, and it was about worrying and getting worked up about things that are going to happen. 85% of the things that we worry about do not happen. And only 3% happen the way we think they're going to happen. So 12% might happen, but it happens in a different way. And when you actually unlock that and you go, oh, okay, well, I'm worrying about stuff, but only 3% of this stuff is actually going to happen the way I think it's going to happen. It's quite a liberating thing to be like, because I don't want to sit on this podcast to business owners and, you know, say, oh God, it's really bad when we have to let people go, because people won't resonate with that. But I have gone through that of having to let people go. And I reckon that's the most fucked up my brain has got over like a week period while running a business. Because you do buy into people, and you don't just buy into them financially, you buy into them emotionally. You see them, you know, I see my team sometimes more than I see my daughter. I see my team more than I see my family who live in the north. So when you're having to go through those hard conversations, those hard decisions, I think what you just said about transparency, about decision making within a business is so important, to make sure that your wider team, one, understands why you made the decision, and two, so they aren't feeling, oh God, am I next? Is that going to happen to me? Like,
yeah, that was a big thing of like letting them understand what it looks like after in terms of numbers and where we need to be. So again, when they're checking the numbers, they can understand this is good. We're in a stable position. I think the curse of, and I'm not saying we built a perfect team, but the curse of building a team where people are happy and get along is actually, if people leave for whatever reason, that really shakes things up. It's painful for people. It's not about me in that situation. It's about people, if they've been there a while as well, and someone, say, gets a different opportunity, they go somewhere else, and just out the blue, oh, I'm leaving. People are like, oh shit, we didn't see that coming. And then it makes them think about their future, and then it ruffles things for a bit. So I'd say that
you almost, I don't want to see it as like a half glass full thing and saying you can't win, but I think that's just an unfortunate byproduct of making a great culture. Like in our team, there's a few people who have become such good friends. Some of them that have only just moved to London, didn't have many other friends, and now they're like this clan. And yeah, like thinking about maybe one of them leaving would just shake the boat completely. But what's the alternative? You have a team that aren't connected. So that's always just going to happen when you do a good culture like yours.
I think like my thing is, I'm trying to always just keep my ears open to listen to what people are saying in the team, to understand them better, to understand how they're feeling, so I can then make decisions based off the back of that. Like I said, it's a partnership, man. I need to hear what people are truly feeling. And we gather feedback in many different ways here, right? We'll have retros where there'll be a board, a digital board on a website. You can put like things that have worked, things that we want to do differently, things that we want to stop. Stuff like that. That's anonymous. We'll do non-anonymous ones. We'll do one-to-ones. People will just be listening to stuff and feed stuff back. There's so many ways you can listen. And I think that's key, because you need to be able to act on things fast to keep that harmony and to keep peace to grow. Yeah, it's so tricky.
True, man. Where's the future of the Sole Supplier then? What have you got planned? What's your? Because I was on your Instagram this morning, and I saw a post you did. I think it was like early January, about it was all about growth and giving back to the community. So what is the future for you guys?
Yeah, so content and content marketing is at the heart of everything again. It was how we grew for 4 years. It was how the Sole Supplier became to be known. It was how Ben originally stumbled across me, because he used to watch the Sole Supplier content. So content and face-to-camera content is at the heart of everything we're doing again. So I'm back on the camera, Dan, Kelly, and we're going to get a few new presenters as well. People buy from people. So if you are a business owner now and you're not at the front of your business, then you should have some people that are, because we're living in a people-driven economy is what I say now. So that is at the heart of everything. But building out the Sole Market, which is our marketplace for buyers and sellers, it's slightly cheaper than the other marketplaces. People get products next day, 90% of the time. We verify the sellers and digitally authenticate the products, and we've got some more tech coming around that. So in terms of marketplace experience...
So the sellers are... Sorry to cut you off, but just to understand it, because I've bought through StockX and I've done the whole verification thing.
Took a while, right?
Took a while.
Yeah.
How does that work? So so you digitally verify a product in the seller's house, like in their own home?
Yep, exactly that, yeah.
Wow.
But the basis of that is KYCing and knowing your sellers.
Right, got you.
We have a verification process which other platforms don't use. So at the moment, we've got a large pool of sellers. It does become harder when someone just wants to sell one product and they have to go through KYC and digital authentication. But ultimately, what does it do for the buyer? It creates trust. They can get their products quicker. They don't have to wait 3 weeks like somewhere else, StockX or Go. And it's all about buyers getting their products quick and sellers getting paid fast. Sometimes people have to wait 4 weeks to get paid on these other platforms. They don't want to wait. Some of the fees are much higher. Some platforms charge 30% fee. For what reason? So we've got an account management service for our sellers. Customer service was at the top of our pyramid when we created Sole Market. So we're planning to scale that. Now we're slightly getting back to a point of stability. Yeah. We're on a hiring freeze right now. That won't be forever, hopefully. But it's all about that end-to-end experience. You learn about the shoes. You find out all of the retailers to get them at the Sole Supplier. You set your reminders up. You hopefully secure them at retail. If not, you might buy them on the Sole Market. And if you have secured them, maybe one or two, you might sell a pair on the Sole Market. So serving people from the start to the finish of their kind of sneaker journey, from like their influence and trend stage to all the way to like
I heard
secondary.
You were saying in an interview about, you think of music, you think of Spotify, you think of, tech, you think of Apple. You were like, you think of trainers, I want them to think of the Sole Supplier. You're doing that by creating that end-to-end. Like if you can't get it on retail, you can buy it on the marketplace.
Exactly, yeah. So if we work with 40 different partners for retail, and then we've got all of the verified sellers at resale, the trickiest thing about this is sneakers are so competitive now. And you're dealing with companies like StockX who've had $500 million of investment. We will go out for investment later on this year. We had to take that off the radar when we had a tough Q1. But that will come back. The reason I say that is because the brand awareness budgets that StockX are putting out there, the influencer budgets that they've got, the ability to scale their development team to release tech faster is crazy. Their ability to afford some of the most expensive developers out there. The development market in London's crazy. Some of the best devs cost 150 grand to 200 grand. And it's a lot of money to pay. We're a self-funded business for the last 10 years. And I hope to keep it that way if certain plans come off. But when you're dealing with someone like that that's got $500 million of investment, what do you do? It's
hard, isn't it? Like, I have the same thing trying to compete against the major talent agencies that have got hundreds of millions of investment, and they can buy, multiple team members for the same role and things like that. And it does come across your head like, if you're actually going to compete, you've got to either do something incredible internally or you've got to take on investment.
But you're self-funded as well.
Self-funded completely.
Yeah, so it's tricky.
It is tricky. It's that tipping point, isn't it?
Because it's patience as well, right? I've always been, when I'm in my zone, I'm patient. And I'm like, I don't care. I love building this business. And I do love building this business. I love it, right? But then I get impatient. And I'm like, 10 million right now would be good because I could do this, and this. It's a fluctuation of what I think is right. I would truly like to keep it and share more of the equity with people in the company, as we've shared some already, but sharing it with the key players and the people that are progressing. So it's all for us rather than some external VC that's giving us money.
I think that's, for me,
tricky.
It's never going to be an external VC. It's going to be a partner.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because for me, and I've had some really good mentors that have talked about this, about, you wouldn't go to a birthday party and not share your cake. You want to share a piece of the pie. You want to grow together. It's not about me not wanting to give away some ownership. I never want to partner with the wrong people.
Yeah, not just for money. It's got to be, they've got to bring expertise.
Yeah, something.
Comes back to that, bringing senior people in. If you can get someone that's like a great investment house or partner, and I'm with you on that. I use the word VC just about money, but then they're going to bring all those expertise to help you scale, to take us to the US, to help us build better systems to scale.
Yeah. Have you got any plans to go abroad?
That is part of the plan.
Right.
Yeah. So part of the plan is to further expand the Sole market, to compete more in the marketplace space, to improve the end-to-end ability to buy, to go to the US. That's part of the expansion plan.
I can imagine that's a ginormous market for what you guys do.
It is, yeah. And there's a lot to do over there. We've dipped our toe in and we think we could do very well over there. But we don't want to do it half-assed.
No.
There's a lot to do in the UK still. Yeah.
George, thank you so much. My final question for you, something that I ask everybody is, what has been your biggest lesson and learning while creating a business that you would pass on to the next generation of business owners?
We're living in a world that is driven by money and success more than ever.
Yeah.
That is shown to you everywhere on social media.
Yeah.
And the aspiration can be to be rich and wealthy, but that doesn't truly make you happy. Wealth is, when you get to a certain point, you've got a house, a place to live, and certain things in life that make you, that is happiness. The rest is just extra, small percentages on top. So we're living in that world. And if you're building a business or you're in a career where you need to do well, it can be easy to focus on money, but that is at the cost of the customer. So the biggest learning for me, and this has come back time and time again, is focus on what you're good at and what you're doing first, and then byproduct will be money. That is everything. People focus too much on the money and they lose sight of the customer, which we have done.
Yeah.
And you start building the wrong things, doing the wrong things, the customer notices it and they get scared off. So focus on your purpose and your customer and the business first, and then byproduct will be money. That will come. But don't get distracted by all of these people out there that are showing you Lambos, showing you Dubai mansions, showing you all these things. They're all nice to have, but ultimately you're only going to get there if you do the right things first.
Yeah, I love that. That was a great message, George. Thank you, mate.
Thanks,
Cheers.
man.